A devoted wife, a husband she trusted with everything, until the day he turned her greatest faith into a nightmare. Buried alive, she was left to die in the name of greed. What could drive a man to commit such a chilling act of betrayal? And could she outlast his plan? Stay with us. The way she turned the tables will leave you breathless. Adam Parker, a respected suburban contractor, and Susan Parker, a beloved nurse and devoted mother of two, appeared to be the epitome of the American dream. Lexington, Kentucky, a picturesque town nestled in the heart of America, was their home. But in July 2023, as financial pressures mounted in a world still recovering from the pandemic, their idyllic life began to fracture. What started as a loving partnership unraveled into a chilling betrayal. Driven by greed, would orchestrate a crime so cruel it defied comprehension. Susan, the woman who once trusted him with her life, became his target. Stay with us as we unravel not just the shocking events that led to that fateful day, but the hidden truths that almost allowed Adam to escape justice. By the end of this video, we'll uncover not only the shocking crime, but the chilling secrets that almost allowed him to get away with it. Adam Parker's life began in Lexington, Kentucky, a place known for its charm and tradition, where dreams could either flourish or fade. From a young age, Adam's ambitions were apparent. As a star athlete on his high school football team, he was the kind of person who carried himself with confidence, always chasing the thrill of victory. But off the field, another pattern began to emerge. Adam's inclination for taking risks. Whether it was gambling on a business deal or borrowing money with shaky repayment plans, he seemed addicted to the allure of quick success, often at the expense of long-term stability. In contrast, Susan Parker was the anchor that kept their world steady. A devoted nurse, she was adored by her patients and respected by her peers. Friends described her as selfless, always putting others before herself. Susan would stay late to sit with a patient who was scared or in pain, a colleague shared. She had a way of making people feel seen, even when they were at their lowest. Their love story began like so many others. A chance meeting at a local event, laughter exchanged over shared dreams. For years, their marriage seemed strong. They were the kind of couple who appeared in Christmas cards, surrounded by their two children and a white picket fence. But behind closed doors, the pressures of life were mounting. Adam's financial missteps started small. A few missed payments, a delayed project, but soon snowballed into something much larger. Construction contracts fell through, leaving debts that seemed insurmountable. Susan, though concerned, remained supportive, taking on extra shifts at the hospital to help make ends meet. However, her efforts were not enough to stop the tidal wave of Adam's growing desperation. In early 2023, Adam made a decision that would change everything. He took out a $750,000 life insurance policy on Susan. At the time, it seemed like a precaution, a safeguard for the family should anything happen. But those closest to Susan later recalled subtle signs that something wasn't right. Adam started talking about money all the time, a neighbor shared. Not just normal worries, but like he was obsessed with it. And the way he looked at Susan, it was different. There was this distance. The cracks in their marriage became more evident as Adam's demeanor shifted. He grew irritable, often snapping over small things, and spent long hours away from home. Susan confided in a close friend that she felt something was wrong. She said Adam was acting strange, like he had something on his mind but wouldn't talk about it, the friend revealed. By the summer of 2023, Lexington was experiencing the same economic pressures felt across the country. Inflation, lingering effects of the pandemic, and dwindling job opportunities left many families struggling to stay afloat. For Adam, the stakes felt even higher. With creditors knocking on his door and the walls closing in, he began plotting a way out, one that would secure his financial freedom, no matter the cost. Susan, unaware of the storm brewing in her own home, continued her routines, working long hours, caring for her children, and trusting in the man she had built her life with. But as Adam's plan began to take shape, small pieces of the puzzle started falling into place. The life insurance policy, his secretive behavior, and his growing detachment all pointed to something far darker than anyone could have imagined. How could a man who once vowed to protect his wife now see her as the obstacle standing between him and financial relief? And could anyone have foreseen the chilling lengths he would go to in order to carry out his plan? What would you do if you noticed your partner acting strangely about money? Let us know in the comments. In July 2023, Adam Parker suggested what seemed like an innocent idea: a getaway hike through the Daniel Boone National Forest. A chance, he said, to reconnect amidst nature and leave their troubles behind. Susan, ever trusting, agreed. She packed her gear, unaware this hike would be nothing like the others they had enjoyed together. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the towering trees and tranquil surroundings masked Adam's true intentions. He carefully chose a secluded spot, far from any trail, where no one would hear what was about to happen. The betrayal came without warning. Susan turned to admire the view when Adam struck. The blow, sudden and vicious, knocked her to the ground. Before she could react, Adam tied her wrists and ankles with a rope he had hidden in his pack. Panic set in as she realized the man she trusted was now her captor. Adam led Susan to a shallow grave he had prepared beforehand. The weight of her horror grew as he forced her into the cold earth, her body pressed tightly into the dirt. As he shoveled soil over her, she struggled to scream, but the weight of the soil muffled her cries. Adam believed his plan was foolproof. By the time anyone found her, it would be too late. But what Adam didn't anticipate was Susan's will to survive. As the air grew thin, her instincts took over. Fighting the suffocating weight of the soil, she managed to create small air pockets, clawing at the loose earth with her fingers. Pain shot through her hands, but she refused to stop. Inch by inch, she pushed through, her resolve stronger than Adam's cruel intentions. Finally, after what felt like hours, Susan broke through the surface. Gasping for air, bruised and bleeding, she stumbled through the forest, desperate to find help. With nothing but sheer determination guiding her, Susan's fight for survival became the beginning of Adam's downfall. If you were in Susan's position, what would your first instinct be? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. After clawing her way to freedom, Susan Parker stumbled through the dense forest, her body battered and caked with dirt. With nothing but determination pushing her forward, she eventually reached a nearby road. There, a passing driver spotted her, a vision of desperation and survival, and called 911. Paramedics arrived within minutes, stabilizing Susan and rushing her to safety. At the hospital, as doctors treated her injuries, Susan recounted the horrifying events. Her words were chilling, and her unwavering account pointed to only one suspect: her husband, Adam Parker. The case landed on the desk of Detective Claire Johnson, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for thoroughness. Initially, the crime seemed like a random attack, a couple ambushed in the woods, but the pieces of Susan's story didn't align with that theory. Her description of Adam's calculated betrayal was too precise, too deliberate to ignore. Detectives wasted no time gathering evidence. They examined Adam's boots, finding traces of soil that perfectly matched the burial site in Daniel Boone National Forest. The deeper they dug, the more damning the evidence became. A forensic analysis of Adam's computer revealed incriminating search history, best ways to kill without evidence, and how deep to dig a grave. Despite the mounting evidence, Adam denied everything. He claimed he had nothing to do with Susan's ordeal, calling her account a misunderstanding fueled by trauma. But his actions betrayed him. Bank records showed Adam withdrawing large sums of money just days before the crime, raising suspicions that he was preparing to flee or pay off debts. For Detective Johnson, the case was anything but straightforward. Adam's charm and insistence on his innocence complicated matters, creating doubt among some members of the investigative team. Was his behavior a calculated attempt to manipulate the system, or was there more to the story? Every piece of evidence was scrutinized, every lead pursued, as investigators built their case. Susan's testimony was powerful, but would it be enough to ensure justice? The investigation revealed a web of lies and deceit that left everyone asking, could a man capable of such cruelty ever truly be held accountable? Do you think Adam's search history is enough evidence to convict him, or could it be explained away? Comment below. As investigators pieced together Adam Parker's motives, one undeniable truth emerged: financial desperation was at the heart of his actions. Adam's history of failed business ventures and mounting debt painted a picture of a man drowning in obligations he could no longer control. The $750,000 life insurance policy taken out on Susan just months before the crime was no coincidence. It was his ticket to a fresh start. Detectives theorized that Adam saw no other way out. With creditors closing in and his financial empire crumbling, he turned to the unthinkable, sacrificing his wife to solve his problems. But was this the entire story? Some speculated that Adam's actions might not have been entirely his own. Could he have been influenced by external pressures, debt collectors known for their intimidation tactics, or perhaps even an accomplice who stood to gain from Susan's death? These possibilities raised new questions and widened the scope of the investigation. Psychologists offered insight into the mind of someone capable of such an act. Greed, they said, often clouds judgment, turning ordinary people into criminals. In cases like this, one expert explained, the perpetrator often rationalizes their actions, convincing themselves that they have no other choice. They see the victim not as a loved one, but as an obstacle to be removed. Others pointed to deeper psychological issues, potential narcissistic tendencies, or a history of manipulation. Adam's charm, which once drew people to him, may have been a tool he used to control those around him, including Susan. As the investigation unfolded, viewers were left to grapple with the same questions as the detectives. Was this a coldly premeditated crime, meticulously planned to the last detail? Or was it the desperate act of a man who felt he had run out of options? Do you think this was a carefully premeditated crime or a desperate act? Vote in the comments. Adam Parker was arrested on August 9, 2023. The arrest came just days after Susan's miraculous escape, but it was a moment both relieving and bittersweet. The man who had once vowed to love and protect her was now the man who tried to bury her alive. As Susan's story gained attention, the evidence against Adam continued to mount. What had begun as a horrific betrayal soon transformed into a chilling case that would rattle the community of Lexington, Kentucky for months. The arrest was the first step toward justice. Adam was charged with attempted murder, fraud, and several other counts related to his attempt to kill Susan for financial gain. But for Susan, the battle was far from over. She wasn't just fighting to survive anymore. Now, she was fighting for her family, her dignity, and for the truth to be heard in a courtroom. Adam's trial would take place in a state court, and it would be one of the most highly publicized events in Kentucky that year. As the trial approached, Susan's emotions were a complex mixture of anger, fear, and resolve. How could the man she loved, the father of her children, commit such a heinous act? And yet, there was little room left for doubt. The evidence was overwhelming. In the days leading up to the trial, Susan spent hours preparing to face Adam in court. She had always been a nurse, a healer, someone who had dedicated her life to helping others. But here, in the courtroom, she would need to do something very different. She had to face the man who had once been her partner in life, who had betrayed her in the worst possible way. It would not be easy. It would be painful, but she was determined. She owed it to herself, to her children, and to all the women who had suffered in silence at the hands of a loved one. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. Susan's testimony was heart-wrenching. She recounted the horror of that day, how Adam had convinced her to go on a getaway hike in the nearby Daniel Boone National Forest, a place they both knew well. She described how she had trusted him completely, never imagining that this trip would turn into a fight for her life. Susan's voice quivered slightly as she described how Adam struck her from behind, knocking her to the ground and tying her up. She relayed how, with every breath, she thought this was the end. But she didn't give up. Susan explained how, even as the dirt piled on top of her, she fought with everything she had. With her arms bound and no way to move freely, she clawed at the earth with her hands, slowly creating pockets of air. She clawed and scratched, even as panic threatened to overtake her, and against all odds, she escaped. As Susan spoke, the courtroom was silent. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. The pain in her voice was raw, but it was also a testament to her strength. Every word was heavy with the weight of what she had endured. And through it all, she remained composed, focusing not just on the horror she had faced, but on the justice she was now seeking. Adam, seated in the defendant's chair, barely seemed to react. He had his head down most of the time, his face a mask of indifference. But the jury was paying attention. They had heard everything: the forensic evidence, the chilling details of Susan's escape, and the evidence of Adam's search history on his computer, searching for best ways to kill without evidence, and how deep to dig a grave. This was not a crime of passion. It was a premeditated act driven by greed. The prosecution also brought forward evidence from the crime scene. The soil found on Adam's boots matched the exact soil of the shallow grave where Susan had been left to die. The phone records showed that just days before the crime, Adam had withdrawn large sums of money, further suggesting his desperation and intent to collect the life insurance money he had taken out on Susan just months earlier. The details painted a portrait of a man willing to destroy everything for the sake of money. But Adam didn't admit guilt. Instead, he insisted that he had nothing to do with what happened. His defense was flimsy at best. He claimed that he had been in a panic after their hike went wrong, and that Susan had somehow managed to escape on her own with no involvement from him. But the evidence, paired with Susan's testimony, painted a very different picture. Adam's lies only reinforced the idea that he was trying to cover up his deadly plan. The courtroom drama reached its climax during Susan's emotional testimony. As she spoke, she stared directly at Adam. It was the first time in weeks that she had seen him in person. Her emotions were a mix of grief, anger, and disbelief. The man who had once been her everything, the man she had raised a family with, was now a stranger, a criminal. "How could you do this to me?" Susan asked, her voice steady but filled with sorrow. "How could you do this to our children?" Adam remained silent, his eyes fixed downward, unwilling to meet her gaze. His failure to show any remorse only made his actions seem more chilling. After days of testimony, the jury deliberated. It didn't take long. When the verdict came in, it was swift and final. Adam Parker was found guilty on all charges. The room was filled with a sense of relief, but it wasn't a complete victory. There would be no bringing back the life Susan had once known. No erasing the trauma that would haunt her forever. Adam was sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. He would never again be free to harm anyone. But for Susan, justice wasn't just about a sentence. It was about reclaiming her life and her future. And with the support of her children, her friends, and the community, she began the long process of healing. In the months that followed the trial, Susan became an advocate for domestic violence survivors. She shared her story with anyone who would listen, hoping to raise awareness about the dangers of financial abuse, the warning signs of manipulation, and the strength it takes to survive. She spoke to organizations that helped victims of domestic violence, sharing her message of survival and resilience. Lexington, too, rallied behind Susan. The community had watched her fight for her life, and now they stood by her as she rebuilt her world. Local businesses held fundraisers for her children's education, and friends organized support groups for other survivors. What Adam had tried to destroy, the community helped rebuild. Through it all, Susan never lost sight of what mattered most: her children, her life, and the future she had fought so hard to protect. Though the scars of that day would never fully fade, Susan was determined to show her children that even in the face of the darkest betrayal, there's always hope for a brighter tomorrow. As the years passed, Susan continued to speak out, telling her story to inspire others and to remind them that no matter how dire the situation may seem, survival is possible. Justice had been served, but her true victory came in reclaiming her life and finding peace, something Adam Parker could never take from her. And so, Susan Parker's journey was far from over. It was a journey of healing, of strength, and most importantly, of never giving up on herself. After hearing the full story, one question remains. Was justice truly served? Could any sentence fully account for the pain and trauma Adam caused? Or does his punishment serve as a warning to others who might consider betraying the trust of those closest to them? Would you change your earlier comment? The story of Adam and Susan Parker is a sobering reminder of how far greed and desperation can push someone, transforming love and trust into betrayal and violence. But more than that, it's a testament to the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Susan's journey from victim to survivor to advocate shines a light on the strength within us all. Her escape wasn't just from the shallow grave Adam left her in, it was from the life of fear and manipulation he imposed. Her determination to live, to protect her children, and to reclaim her future turned a horrifying act of betrayal into a story of hope and empowerment. This case also serves as a warning. Financial struggles and secrecy can become fertile ground for devastating consequences. Recognizing warning signs, whether it's unusual financial behavior, sudden changes in temperament, or signs of manipulation, can be crucial in preventing tragedies like this one. Beyond the personal lessons, Susan's experience underscores the importance of community and legal support for victims of abuse. Survivors need resources, protection, and a network of people willing to listen and help them heal. The Lexington community's response to Susan's ordeal is a reminder that even in the darkest times, collective strength can foster hope and recovery. As we close this chapter, we're left with one final question. What lessons do you take from Susan's story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, stories like this are a call to action, a chance to support and protect those who might otherwise face their struggles alone. What lessons do you take from Susan's story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If Susan's story moved you, take a moment to hit that like button and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Stories like hers remind us of the power of resilience and the importance of community in times of need. Don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories where justice and courage take center stage. Your support helps us continue sharing these powerful narratives. And stay tuned. Tomorrow, we'll uncover a case where a deadly secret shattered an entire family. You won't want to miss it.